Surprise! It's your party. Oh, I'm sorry. You haven't got married, had babies, or had any significant luck in your life recently. That's okay. We are here to celebrate you anyway, because with wedding season coming up, I am hyper aware as an unmarried person that you might be about to spend the summer being very, very happy for other people. And while I love that, and they are great things to celebrate, I can't help thinking that for those people who don't have those milestones, we end up just never celebrating them. And in a world where markers for life progression and success are being questioned and demoted, economically unviable, or frankly sometimes undesirable, I mean, babies, fertility, commitment, prosperity in this economy, that doesn't mean that we're all not doing cool things and pushing forward and deserve to be celebrated. So after being inspired by this absolutely horrific but also genius reel about how not through malice or neglect but sheer logistics it can be that the only time that a lot of people's loved ones gather to celebrate them is at their funeral, I have decided to compile a list of other kinds of celebrations we can introduce into our own friendship circles and families that I think would be cool. Not only are these my own suggestions, but I've actually pulled all of your suggestions and examples from your own lives from Instagram. So I'm so excited to share this huge pool of ideas of new traditions and new ways to say, hey, we love you, you're doing a good job. And in increasingly isolated and lonely societies without economic and religious structures, I really think we need a good party more often, please. Now, I'm not a complete stranger to these different kinds of parties. If you've watched my Lies You're Told About Marriage video, you'll know that I'm just not keen on signing a contract with the government right now, and it's not something that I picture in my near future. But I have dabbled in other kinds of parties. I used to have loads of parties in some of my old flats in London, and one of my favourites was throwing a Friday the 13th party where all of the decorations were themes of like doom and sadness, and there was an unlucky dip in which I just put like sad tampons and shit custard sachets and stuff. And I've also been included before in my Irish friends' celebration of something they called Women's Christmas, which is a celebration feast on the day of Epiphany in Ireland, which is the 6th of January, and it's kind of like supposed to be women's little Christmas to recognise the fact that women play a big role in running a household over a Christmas celebration. And I quote, "It's a tradition for the women to get together and enjoy their own Christmas while the men folk stay at home and handle all the chores." But there is so much more to explore, and I'm 100% here for all of the unhinged solutions and suggestions. So let's get going. I've put them into categories. The first category is sobriety. Of course, there are the more well-known addictions like alcoholism and drug abuse. I had a family member that used to celebrate, I actually didn't know their real birthday because they always just celebrate their sobriety birthday. But of course, you could also celebrate the day you ended your addiction to shopping, which is like actually a big, like a really serious thing. Like, it's funny, but it's not funny. Perhaps it could be a celebration of the day you left a toxic job. Maybe you are ending your addiction to success. As an addictive concept, I've seen things around eating disorders and self-harm as well, if there is a moment in time in which you can pinpoint recovering from that. And a great suggestion that came through on Instagram was a fast fashion leavers party, which if you are not new to the channel, you know I 1000% support. The next category is completing a challenge of any type. Of course, promotions for a job are an obvious one, but I got a message from a nurse that said in nursing you have to do a revalidation every 3 years, apparently. So you could have a revalidation party, and that got me thinking about all the more specific things you could relate to your own industry or profession. But also for those moments when you are offered a job but you can't take it. This is a really great example. Somebody said, one of my friends got offered a role within her dream job. The interview was horrible and the follow-up was bad vibes, and she decided not to take it and was quite frustrated. I got her an intensely tacky desk sign with the title and made a fake welcome to the company pack to remind her that she did get the job and still chose herself rather than a toxic workplace. I mocked up a welcome letter and filled it with a list of all the ways I was proud of her. Why am I crying already in this video? It's too early. Perhaps it's a sporting challenge like a triathlon or a marathon. Why can't you have a party with your family and friends after completing something huge like that? Although presumably you wouldn't want to do it on the day, you just want a massive shower and a massive sleep. People suggested throwing parties for when you complete a longer term creative project, anything from a puzzle Imagine having a puzzle shower and everyone just coming around your house and being like, good puzzle. And maybe like you keep the last piece for when the party, anyway, it'd be a whole thing. The puzzle ceremonies abound. There's also suggestions of the completion of a big blanket or a big quilt. I think it'd be cool to have a party for celebrating if you've read a certain amount of books in the year. Like say if you have a goal of like 30 or 50 or 100 books and you hit that goal, to throw a celebration of that, like a party for that, but you could give away at the party all the books that you really loved, or even buy multiple copies of them from your local charity shops or secondhand online stores, and then those could all be in the goodie bags, or you could have a table where people can browse them and take them away. I think that would be super sweet. Celebrating either building a veg patch or like your first harvest after having an allotment for a while, including serving little soups or entrees of things that you've actually grown. One person told me that they were planning a fen do for when they finish their PhD, like fen, like hen, which is our version of a bachelorette party, by the way, for anyone in the US who doesn't know. And a few of you sent me a link to this person on TikTok who is actually planning a wedding for the end of her PhD, like the whole shebang, venue, flowers, concepts, dress. This one is a great one. Perfecting a perfect recipe party and then throwing a party themed around that. Maybe it's like a pumpkin pie and then you have loads of pumpkin themed cocktails and you serve the pumpkin pie. I don't know. Veganuversary, if you complete a certain amount of years as a vegan, and that also would involve serving a lot of really nice example food of the stuff that you might have discovered. Paying off debts. This is a weird one in our economy because I actually think paying off debt is such a huge feat in this day and age, and so emotionally significant as well as financially significant, but it can also just feel like a bit of a weird thing to celebrate. But I honestly think from anything from student loans to credit card debt, somebody suggested having a credit card debt free party where all the guests had to come dressed as the colours of the credit card company that they were now free from, which just sounds so funny. Passing your driving test or restarting driving lessons after having quit. Finishing the draft of a book that you're trying to write, not the validation of getting published or getting an agent or any of that, but just the sheer grit it takes to finish a first draft. I think that definitely deserves a party. Ending a round of therapy that you might have had that you were scared to go for. I think that's really cool. And then this one made me laugh. Saving up and getting a new boiler. So like having like a boiler shower, probably combined with the celebration of getting to have an actual hot shower. Genius. The next category is breakups. I am now in my 30s, which means that some of the weddings I attend in my 20s are now becoming divorces, and I'm spending markedly less energy encouraging and celebrating those people, or I would have defaulted to that if I hadn't made this video and been like, I should probably pay attention to that, than I did do celebrating them getting married, even though I actually think that maybe in some cases getting a divorce requires more bravery, more courage, more commitment. I got this lovely message that I was given permission to share, but obviously making it anonymous. I am an SA survivor, and I read once that your skin cells all fully regenerate after about 7 years. Obviously it's not exact, but after 7 years I'm planning to throw a big party to celebrate having a body that my attacker has never touched. It'll also be really nice to spend the day surrounded by loved ones and thinking about how far I've come. That one really made me well up, and I think that there is such a significance in marking dates, because for a lot of like traumatic experience, I think you mark the dates for yourself anyway. So planning ahead for that and making sure you're surrounded by people and not being ashamed of recognizing that it was a significant moment in your life. And like, do you know what I mean? If you're going to remember it anyway, why not plan something around it to get some agency in that thought process and that significance? The next category is health milestones. Somebody said, my friends threw me a diagnosis party when I finally got the answers for my disability. It can be so hard to get diagnoses for those kinds of things, and I think that they probably do feel like celebrations a lot of the time to just have answers. I think we're so focused in the medical world on solutions and cures, and actually sometimes half of the cure is just having an answer, having a direction, and that's what can be most heartbreaking when people don't have it. So why aren't we celebrating that? I don't know. I got quite a few mentions of people having celebrations around anniversaries of cancer, operations or cancer-free diagnoses. Also loads of suggestions of recoveries from all sorts of kinds of serious illnesses. Somebody suggested having a party to celebrate that you've raised your iron levels if they were low. I actually think that's kind of cool. And you can also serve iron-rich foods at the party. It makes so much sense. I realised that I'm really overly focused on what food would be served at any of these said parties, and I make no apologies for it. It's very important to me what kind of food is served at a party. It's sometimes the difference between whether I attend or not. First period anniversaries, or, love this one, menopause parties, for when people hit the menopause. Like, I want a menopause party. That's a thing that's in my future now. Donating an organ parties, almost died but didn't parties, which if you've watched my therapy video, I think maybe I should have one of those. That actually sounds really fun. Getting a cast-off party, which I have like a vague memory of attending one of those when I was a child, because when you have a cast-on, it's kind of like this big part of who you are as a person for a few months, and a few months feels like a few years in primary school, and everybody signs your plaster. I feel like I went to a party like that. First orgasm party. Somebody even messaged me saying that their boyfriend got them a cake when they finally had their first orgasm, which I love. An IUD removal party, especially if there's, I guess, a significance of either it having been a real pain or you're getting your IUD out because you're going to try for a baby. Somebody said, one of my friends had a party when she got her tubes tied. It involved many themed games like labeling the reproductive system and guessing the length of her tubes. All the foods were tube shaped. Just like a wall of like penne pasta and burritos and strawberry laces. Getting your wisdom teeth out, that was arguably the worst kind of pain I've ever been in. So the next category is new family members. This obviously in a world where the nuclear family is being stripped away, dissolving into the distance for some people. Chosen family is really important, and whether that's adopting a child or any other kind of significant connection you have with other people in your life, I think is worth celebrating. There's also, of course, somebody wrote in, cat gender reveal parties. The only kind of gender reveal parties I will truly celebrate. And then also somebody said their housemate and them threw a hen party when they got new chickens. I thought I'd been to the best hen parties, but clearly not. Why isn't anybody inviting me to real hen parties? I feel cheated. Then there's the category of trips, whether it's like a big trip for you, a year-long trip, a couple of months, it's your first solo trip, anything like that. I'm like, why isn't there a party afterwards or before? A big send-off, why not? Then I thought there could actually be a whole genre of celebration revenge parties, so milestones that you've missed that you actually want to claim back. Somebody in my DM said they missed their prom, or their debs as they call it, so friends threw them a prom that was just for them. Why? That's so sweet. Why is everybody so sweet? Why are humans such fucking dicks, but also so cute? This species is a really weird party to be part of, I'll tell you. And the next one is generally just identity parties. So coming out, being diagnosed with neurodivergence of any kind. Trans anniversaries have a lot of different capacities in them. I got DMs about pronoun parties, gender reveal parties for yourself as an adult, new name parties, top surgery parties, anything where people are just discovering new stuff about themselves and like feel like it's a significant marker in their life. Crack out the cake. What's stopping us? And then I just have like a massive vat of miscellaneous ones in my last category because I don't know where to put them, but they all were just really cool. So first tattoo, especially if the tattoo is like for a significant reason, or maybe it's just a really cool image and then you have a party themed around that image. Like I just got some starlings on my arm, so maybe when it's all completely finished I should have like a starling welcome party and like theme everything around starlings and Aberystwyth somehow, because that's why I got it. I got a few ones about new haircut parties, especially if it's like a big chop for you. My friend Hannah has a chop semi-regularly that she then donates all of her hair to a charity that makes wigs for kids who need them. So I think that would, maybe we should have made more of that, Hannah. Maybe we should have some haircut parties, but also just generally for whatever reason, if it's a big emotional haircut for you, hail it in, celebrate it, throw it at a welcome party. Somebody said we hold a yearly party for one of my friends' box fringe. A haircut is akin to childbirth. You lot are so much funner than me. I feel like I'm the boring person at any of these parties. Completing a tattoo sleeve as well. That takes a lot of saving and a lot of commitment and a lot of pain. So I feel like having a finished tattoo sleeve would be a really Good, significant, justified party. Somebody suggested having a favourite outfit party where all your friends get dressed up in your favourite outfits and go out to dinner. You could do it annually and make a night of it, include karaoke and stuff. So I think that everybody has clothes in their wardrobe that they have no reason to wear, or they don't celebrate that much, or they can't show anyone. And I think that's just such, I'm going to steal that. I'm having that. I'm doing it. It's mine. Switching degrees, having a personal Independence Day party for yourself when you move out of your parents' house, or maybe if you had toxic housemates, moving out of your toxic housemate house. Who knows? You interpret that however you want, like a personal Independence Day. I guess that could also be like a work situation. Somebody suggests switching degree party, so I guess that's also like an Independence Day party from your degree. If you're in political activist spaces, I think having a first arrest party or some kind of political action party would be really interesting. A few people messaged me talking about visas and citizenship statuses and indefinite leave to remain moments that they want to celebrate. So I think that would be really cool, like a visa party. This one was my favourite one. My parents threw a chocolate fondue party for me when I stood up to a bully when I was 6. I think standing up to a bully at any age is big, and a chocolate fondue party just feels like such a great reward. Somebody else said, my friends had a separate flat warming party for the balcony, like a balcony warming party, to celebrate when it was finally warm enough to use their balcony, which I fully support. Getting your deposit back party after moving out of rented, maybe that would, for me, turn into kind of like a slightly counterintuitive situation, because I'd probably end up spending all the money from the deposit on food, but that's fine. Friendship anniversaries was a big one, of when you first met or first became friends with one of your still close friends and how many years that is. But this suggestion really tickled me. When me and my pals ages make a joint 0 number, we have a party. So me, 28, and my pal, 32, we have a 60th party. Love it. Somebody's friend celebrates Judge Judy's birthday every year as a way of gathering his loved ones. And this really gives me Captain Fantastic vibes. If you haven't seen that film, they celebrate Noam Chomsky Day instead of Christmas. And I really think this is a lovely idea of like being able to share your love for like a historical figure or anybody in the world that you really care about, and like inviting people in to like find out more about them and just have a silly celebration of it. I remember when I was at school and I was in a play like the Caucasian Chalk Circle, and we all sincerely celebrated Bertolt Brecht's birthday. Like we made a cake and we took it really seriously. So maybe a strange teenager, but somebody said, not exactly the prompt, but my friends and I always seem to have a not great January, so we've started re-celebrating the new year on the 31st of January for a fresh start and call it New Year's. This one was really sweet. Me and my partner do want to get married one day, but we've had an idea that every year or couple of years on our anniversary, we'll invite everyone over and put together a little updates book on everyone else's milestones for that year. So it's more like a reunion celebration than just about us. Also, our wedding is going to be like fantasy fairy court themed, and the guests are going to be split into teams or houses, which are themed obviously, and compete in games and a big pub quiz. So every anniversary get together is also like a rematch, and the updates book is like lore, and we'll write it out like a fairy tale. So like if someone got a big promotion that year, it'll say Lady Sarah has risen in the ranks from project coordinator to project manager, which is such a nice community focused inclusive way of celebrating your wedding or romantic milestones as well. I think that's so sweet. And it also made me think about those Christmas, like the very mocked Christmas newsletters that everybody used to send and receive, and maybe some people still do. Let me know if you do that, where you post people a little newsletter of what you've been up to that year or your family's been up to that year in your Christmas card. And I was like, why don't we have like Christmas card newsletter parties where like instead of actually printing it and sending it, you do like a little presentation, or you talk through your little newsletter of what you've been doing the whole year and like the ups and downs. I think that'd be really sweet. A bit extra, yes, but sweet. To round off all of this absolute silliness, I think I'd like to end on this message. I got this DM from somebody. I think an important part of the conversation here is that the people who organise weddings, christenings, etc. are the people who are actually having them. Even if a maid of honour organises a hen do, she's doing it because the bride has asked her to. But if I throw a birthday party, a housewarming or a house anniversary, people will come, but I don't get to complain that nobody's organising a party for me, because that's not really what weddings are. Ugh. Hard truths. hard truth. I agree with the fact that I think sometimes we get swept up in feeling hard done by because people who don't have babies and have weddings don't get celebrated as much inherently. I do think that is a societal wide problem, but I think there's also something to what this person is saying in that logistically it is often prompted by the person who wants to be celebrated, but there is also a sense of social agency. Like, of course somebody would ask to have a hen do. That's not a weird request. It might feel like a weird request to ask your friends to come to / organize a fen do for you, a PhD party, but it shouldn't be. And I think we can all be part of creating an atmosphere where it's not weird to mark and celebrate your own life milestones, whether they're to do with things that happen to you for better or for worse, or things that you've really worked for. It's also worth remembering that on top of tackling the loneliness epidemic, parties, when done right, are inherently sustainable. You're cooking en masse, you're sharing heating and lighting, you're building networks and coordinating with your community. To me, that is a sustainable practice. Obviously, there is an overlay of disposable physical objects that people like to sell you, but I will trust you to not overindulge in that kind of bullshit and focus on the sheer joy of being around other people and applauding their sheer gumption of continuing to exist in such a weird world. Thank you so much for watching this video. It was made possible by the Gumption Club, who tip me per video to make sure these videos keep happening. Tell me your ideas for future celebrations that we could all start introducing into our traditions, or things that have already happened to you. I want the comments to be a wealth of cool stories and hope. So can I trust you with that task? Good. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, you might like some of these videos. Frog Snog out.